First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this extremely exciting time of tech and the ability to share what we know and share what we love, share our hearts, share our minds with everybody around the world. I'm hoping everybody can see the PowerPoint presentation. I won't go over too long. This is an overview basically of what I've been working on with some team members at Aspire2. So one of my core roles at Aspire2 was to develop the biculturalism framework, and this is what you see before you. It took about 4 weeks for me to get through 100 staff members and talk to a bunch of students. One of the challenges was I only started in the organization in November. So I gave myself just before Christmas to really design this biculturalism framework based on the DNA of Aspire2 International. And as you can see, it has 4 principles. The framework is called Aotearoa, which means the 4 winds of the world. And it's based on manaakitanga, ahurutanga, kotahitanga, and kaitiakitanga. Manaakitanga in its direct definition means hospitality, and for us at Aspire2, it's about how we receive our people and how we look after our people being staff and students. Ahurutanga is about keeping our people safe, and we take a holistic view of that, and the model that I've adopted is te whare tapawha. So for those people who are either in the health system or education system, or those who are just interested in health models will know what te whare tapawha is. Kotahitanga is about moving towards our goal as one people. So how is it that as a student body and as a staff body, we're moving towards the one goal? And kaitiakitanga is all about sustainability and ensuring that what we do leaves a positive imprint for the next generation. There's a bit of discussion around the word imprint. And for me, I really subscribe to the third law of motion, which is for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So for everything that we do, it leaves some kind of footprint behind. The reason why I'm talking about this is because I decided to use this to embed these values into our students so they're able to go out into the New Zealand employment context with an understanding of how biculturalism works. And the way that we did this was by creating naturally occurring assessment. So they embedded the biculturalism framework into their schoolwork. It was project-based, so everybody who was in the IT classes was part of a project, and they were part of a team, a minimum of 3. And the aspects of the framework focused on learning on how to actually action these values, and that was really important to me. I wanted to know that at the end of this time, that when they stepped out of Aspire2, they knew how to action these values, and this is how we did it. So one of the projects that was used was a game, and I think we all know who Maui is, and if we don't, you only need to watch the movie Moana to find out who Maui is. And what I asked of the students was that they were to create a game based on Maui slowing down the sun. So if you don't know the story, jump onto Google and have a watch. It's pretty cool. So I introduced international students to Te Ao Māori and the importance of understanding the values and the principles of biculturalism. We have a biculturalism framework and not a multiculturalism framework because we're in Aotearoa in New Zealand. And from a Te Ao Māori point of view, you're either Māori or non-Māori. So hence the reason why biculturalism, though that is not to say that we don't acknowledge those who come from the rest of the world. The reason being is that we've called this biculturalism framework Ngā Haue Whāotiao, which is the 4 winds of the world, and that's an acknowledgement that we receive all students from all around the world, from each corner of the globe. This is a little gameplay. So as I mentioned, the students created a game, and this little character here is Maui, and I'm hoping it's going to play because sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So as you can see, Maui's running through, so this is part of the game. This game is teaching kaitiakitanga. So here Maui is stopping and asking if he can chop down this particular tree. So kaitiakitanga is always making sure that there is enough left over for the next generation. And part of that is acknowledging that certain aspects of nature, Māori believe that you need to ask permission to cut down. So this is Maui going through, and he has to determine which tree to ask. And sometimes the trees ignore him, and sometimes the trees give him advice, which is part of the spiritual aspect of Te Ao Māori. So here Maui is also picking up some flax bushes, which he'll need to use in the next round. So there's about 3 or 4 stages to this game. And yeah, so this, as I mentioned, this part of the game actually teaches the students all about kaitiakitanga, but it also teaches the developers the same thing too. The learning outcomes of the game was to demonstrate knowledge of biculturalism in New Zealand, to demonstrate knowledge of kaitiakitanga and apply basic principles of kaitiakitanga. This is also for the game developers and the game players. In order for them to pass different parts of the stages of these games, they have to actually apply the basic principles of kaitiakitanga. And for the students, it was about demonstrating the knowledge of this, so they had to ensure that the gameplay met the underlying principles and worldviews of kaitiakitanga itself. So how does this promote inclusivity during social isolation? The game is an app, and therefore it is connected to the worldwide players. Skipping down to number 3, this promotes diversity through creating the game and gameplay. So the idea of this is eventually, as the game is worked on and developed further, we're looking at having an online discussion platform where students can discuss what they've learned about kaitiakitanga, so on and so forth, and just have a really cool chat about what life's like in New Zealand applying these particular principles. And the other thing is that it promoted group assessment. So having this as a group assessment promotes the inclusiveness. So students were connected every day working on this task for about 6 weeks. So including during this time period they've just finished, the students were able to connect each day, have a chat about what was happening, have a chat about where they were going, to ensure that they were never left by themselves for too long. They were consistently engaging with Te Ao Māori, so creating that diverse space in IT, and just having a good time creating an assessment that they love. And so we're really proud of what this is, of what we've achieved at Aspire2, and we look forward to releasing it to the world in July. Kia ora.